A message of conservation using storm drains as a canvas. On this episode of the Arts Page, meet a group of Milwaukee teenagers creatively drawing attention to an important environmental issue. Get an in-depth look at an illuminating installation by a pair of international artists in the heart of downtown. Hear the modern melodies of a Grammy Award-nominated cellist from Milwaukee. And
not Latina enough or not Black enough.
Meet a multimedia Afro-Latina artist focusing on celebrating her identity. Welcome to the Arts Page. I'm Sandy Max. Artworks for Milwaukee is a local nonprofit organization with the goal of providing transferable job skills to Milwaukee's youth. Through intensive paid art internships, these teens develop confidence as well as professionalism, creativity, and communication skills. Over the past year, the Arts Page has followed Artworks' environmental arts program. Their goal on this project was to bring awareness to freshwater management. The first part of the journey for these young professionals began in Milwaukee's Garden Homes neighborhood. Phase 1 of their project, Storm Drain Murals, was to get a tour of the north and east stormwater basins in Milwaukee's 30th Street corridor. The tour was meant to be educational and inspirational. The tour was led by Jerome Flogel, Senior Project Manager at Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. They learned about how the city manages flooding during storm season and saw some past Artworks for Milwaukee intern mural projects.
So my interns there, they are all in high school, so some of them know what they want to do, some of them don't. Just honestly, they're just a bunch of curious, amazing students, and they really just want to learn and help other people learn too. The program itself is the environmental arts program. This program is just very inspiring, and it serves to be inspiring.
Also part of the day was a trip to Green Tech Station, just south of the stormwater basins. Owned and operated by the Northwest Side Community Development Corporation, Green Tech Station consists of several green infrastructure projects. Sarah Brigant from the NWS-CDC showed the interns around and talked to them about all the good the station does for the environment and the community.
Pretty much today was just giving a small tour of the inner nature spots in Milwaukee that are built to help the environment. So that's really what we wanted everyone to learn today. And outside of that, just be more conscious of why we're doing a public art project on storm drains.
Phase 2 of the project was community outreach. The Pulaski Park neighborhood was chosen to be the site of the storm drain murals. At the Pulaski Park Pavilion, the Artworks interns participated in a gathering for residents together with the 16th Street Community Health Center and MMSD. Community members were able to paint their own ideas for the storm drain murals. This gave the interns valuable input on which ideas residents liked best.
And they were given instruction to just paint whatever they want. So we're getting a lot of environmental themes, rainbows, clouds, water, birds, that kind of stuff. It's important aesthetically, definitely, because storm drains aren't the most beautiful objects on the street. So just beautifying the community in any way is a benefit, I think, to any neighborhood. We have a very valuable resource in Milwaukee with the rivers and the lake, and it's important to remember what it takes from the community to make it clean and keep it clean.
Phase 3 of the project was submitting the various forms and paperwork required to paint on city property. A long and arduous process for sure, but in October of 2022, the project was officially approved by the city, and the Artworks interns could get to work. Over the course of several Saturdays in the fall of 2022, the interns primed, sketched, and painted 2 storm drains on South 15th Place, just off Cleveland Avenue. Finally, after months of hard work, here were the final storm drain murals. The Artworks Environmental Arts Program plans to do a sister version of the Storm Drain project on Milwaukee's north side later this year. Cathedral Square Park downtown transitioned in January from holiday lights to a different kind of bright display. Lightfield by Hybycozo is a public art installation of lanterns on land and hung from trees, creating captivating geometric shapes and patterns with colorful lighting. Meet the artists behind Hybycozo, one Canadian and one Ukrainian, and see what is involved in bringing this artwork to life in our city.
So what is Hybycozo? What does it mean? What is your mission?
Hybycozo is a art practice that explores and showcases all elements and dimensions of geometry through sculpture. And the name Hybycozo is actually an acronym, and it stands for the Hyperspace Bypass Construction Zone. So our work when we began was really about investigating these regular polyhedra, such as the Platonic solids, the Archimedean solids, the Catalan solids, which is types of shapes defined by mathematical equations that were discovered thousands of years ago. And we really felt like it was important to us to make these shapes larger than life.
So I guess I was pronouncing it wrong. It's Hybycozo, not Hybycozo.
We made up a word. There's not really a right way to say it.
Yeah. Elena, Serge, tell me, what is Lightfield?
Lightfield is a selection of some of our original sculptures and some of our newest sculptures. It's a field of polyhedrons that span from a dodecahedron to a truncated octahedron, an installation of 8 sculptures spanning Cathedral Square Park, along with a set of 16 diamond-shaped lanterns scattered throughout the park as well.
The artworks themselves feel very familiar at times, but at the same time, from a distance, might feel almost alien. And they are secular, but they give you sort of this spiritual, religious feeling sometimes. So we want people to see the artworks and interpret them however they want.
Yeah, we really hope that the people of Milwaukee really appreciate having something in the community, and I hope that it leads to more installations in the future.
So during the assembly and installation process, there were students from UWM's architectural school there assisting. Is that something that's important to you, to get students involved in this type of work?
It 100% is. We've had people help us, whether they're students, whether they're volunteers. These shapes that we're building, these are open shapes to the world, and we want to really share these types of geometries with everyone so they can also use them. If you're an architect, if you're an artist, just in your day-to-day life, understanding the benefits and the properties of these polyhedras is really important. So, Everyone knows what a cube is and a pyramid, but we really want the dodecahedron to be part of every creative's or artist or architect's vocabulary.
And a huge reason why we love to engage students is because in some ways this is an architectural project. Like this is a project that you would do as maybe a review for an architecture or an architectural class, because it is investigating these basic polyhedral forms, and they really do make up everything around us, from studying the way that an assembly can work to creating habitats in zero gravity. These shapes are an element of our environment, and they can help inform design decisions.
So why public spaces? Why put it in parks?
We really, I think, found the heart and soul of our practice when we started creating artwork for the public. We want the artwork to be accessible by all. We want it to feel accessible. We don't want there to be sort of kind of a feeling that, sometimes you go into an art gallery space and you don't necessarily feel welcome. We really want people to be able to come around and feel like this is a community-centered project.
Yeah, as Yelena said, art galleries can be a little daunting to people. There's sometimes an admission charge. They don't always feel comfortable. So by bringing art into the public, art is now accessible to all. And that's extremely important. We see examples of teachers bringing their students to our installations in the park to understand the forms and the geometries. We see people just going on a walk, stopping and enjoying art. Bringing art to the public is extremely important to us. It also gives us spaces that allow us to do very large installations.
And to kind of add on to that, I think that it's a really great reminder for people to see their public spaces transform into something that is beautiful or interesting.
Public art also becomes a meeting place. And so it encourages the growth of community because people interact there, they meet their friends there, they have this shared experience, the whole city can kind of come together. And so art is an important part of a vibrant community.
You can enjoy this public art through May 5th at Cathedral Square Park. Learn more about Hybycozo and Lightfield by going to the website milwaukeedowntown.com. Malik Johnson, also known as 99 the producer, began playing cello in elementary school thanks to a Milwaukee Youth Symphony Orchestra outreach program. Since then, he's gone on to perform classical and contemporary music around the world, produce music, and even get nominated for a Grammy Award. Johnson visited with Milwaukee PBS multimedia producer Lexi Mack.
I would say that the cello is it's my favorite instrument. Maybe I'm biased. It has a lot of range. It can go super low, it can go super high. It's very versatile. You can play classical music, you can play jazz music, you can play R&B, you can play hip hop. You can literally do anything you want. Prior to me knowing about the cello or learning classical music, I literally knew nothing about it. I come from a very gospel family. My mom is very heavily involved in the church, and my dad is a super big hip hop head. He loves hip hop and rap music. So I, before getting introduced to the cello, I literally had no kind of base to go off from about classical music. I got started with the cello through an after-school program called MISO, Milwaukee Youth Symphony Orchestra. They had a program for 3rd and 4th grade inner city students in Milwaukee. The program was called the Progressions Program. The significance of a program like Progressions, it just allows students to have access to resources and to a wide array of musical education by top professionals in the city of Milwaukee and also just all around the world. So if it weren't for them, I wouldn't have been able to have access to those things. My Progressions Program teacher was actually my teacher from Progressions Program until I graduated from high school. Ravenna Helson, she became like a second mom to me.
Let's make sure it's really straight. I think every child should have an opportunity to see if they are musicians. When Malik plays, from the very beginning, he had a voice that was clear and authentic. And so with Malik, it was really pulling him along to understand that the tools that he was learning were really going to be helpful to him later on, because he couldn't even dream about it when he was 8 or 9 or 10 or 11.
She always just challenged me to be a better person, a better musician, just express myself in a way that I never have before, and really try to connect with my audience or whoever I'm playing for. There was a lot of times where I wanted to quit, especially like playing cello so young, at a young age, especially as a black kid. There's not a lot of, there wasn't a lot of people who looked like me, playing a classical instrument. So she definitely just inspired me to just keep going, and she knew I had a talent, and it was something that I had to share with the world. Some people know me as 99 the producer. So yeah, I guess I got turned into him. So yeah, 99 is my alter ego, I guess, my performance name. When I'm playing, I kind of envision myself just in my own world, doing my own thing, at peace, clear mind. I imagine myself lifting off, floating somewhere. I think about the people I love the most. I think about what I'm playing, how it can connect with my audience. But yeah, part of my mission growing up was like I wanted to kind of do something different with the cello. I wanted to expand the boundaries of what people have already seen with the cello. So I do find myself playing a lot of contemporary pieces and more like modern kind of songs. I've been blessed. I really have been blessed. I was able to travel to Europe with MISO when I was 14, 15, or I think 15 years old. Definitely a lot of stuff with the Matt Jones Orchestra. I've been able to work with Kirk Franklin. We're on his Grammy Award-winning album, Long Live Love, which also led me to be on Tiny Desk with PJ Morton through NPR, record with John Legend on his Christmas album in 2018. I've been able to produce for Masego. I produced on his last album, Studying Abroad, which got nominated for a Grammy. What else? I remember people used to ask me like, Malik, would you ever teach one day? I was like, no. But teaching is so beneficial. It's so helpful. It's so transformative. I teach through the Wisconsin Conservatory, and I'm placed at the Woodland School here in Milwaukee. I'm happy that I can share this gift with others and inspire kids to play the cello or violin or viola or whatever they want to play. I hope my presence demonstrates that you can do anything that you want to do. I got started with the cello through classical music, but I found myself being able to take my classical training and transform that into something very special. I hope my story represents passion. I hope it represents the fact that if you put your mind to anything, you can do it, and you can succeed and be great at it.
You met Artworks for Milwaukee lead artist Anna Marie Edwards in the feature about storm drains earlier in our show. Get to know more about Edwards and her identity-affirming art through our story-sharing partnership with CBS 58.
Not Latina enough or not black enough, like things like that. I know when I was younger, skin color was a thing. Like when I would tell people like I was Cuban.
Anna Marie Edwards is a young Afro-Latina artist, the lead teaching artist for the Environmental Arts Internship Program at Artworks for Milwaukee, and the lead photographer at Gaining Visuals.
We focus on black narratives in Milwaukee and like black businesses, entrepreneurs, influencers, and things like that.
Edwards grew up in Alabama, but she's not your average Southern gal.
Different music, like I might listen to like bachata music and then listen to R&B.
Raised by a Cuban mother and a black father.
That stereotypical like loudness was always there, and lots of music. The food was like one of my favorite foods growing up and still now is empanadas. On the other side, on the flip side, so soul food and like collard greens, fried chicken, mac and cheese.
She says she's always been proud of the fusion of both cultures. Though growing up in the South, Edwards says she constantly felt like her identity was a show and tell.
I would get in trouble for taking my hair down at school. I would take my hair down a lot and show people like, look, this is what it looks like, you know, like this is what it is.
Now, as an adult, Anna Marie Edwards says as societal expectations continue, she draws inspiration from that, literally.
Being called unprofessional in multiple situations, being asked to like straighten my hair for certain events, or feeling like I had to do that for certain events, or you know, you can't listen to certain music in certain places.
It wasn't until she moved to Milwaukee about 5 years ago that she began to focus on her artwork, which she describes as a direct reflection of her identity and experiences.
When I hit my 20s and I moved to Milwaukee, a lot of that started to matter. So me not being fluent in Spanish or me not knowing certain Cuban foods. In the black community, there is colorism, and like me being more of a light-skinned girl and claiming to be black sometimes is difficult. So when I do wear my hair in certain ways, it's like I get certain looks, but when people learn more about me, they're always like, oh, okay, I get it, like I understand, like it fits.
As a multidisciplinary contemporary artist, she aims to push the envelope.
A lot of people fall in love with Cuban cars, but they don't understand how actually like sad it is, because they really can't get access to newer cars. So they're forced to drive these really old like cars from like 1900s. And it's like they deserve better transportation.
Provoking emotions and deeper feelings through photography, paintings, and mixed media.
I'm transferring old 1950s Newsweek magazines I got from an estate sale. And they were made and printed in the 1950s, so they're like insanely racist. So I'm like blocking certain advertisements, and like creating like mini paintings out of like these blocks.
Edwards says she's constantly educating herself to teach others what might not be taught in schools.
What does it mean to have a hidden identity, and like what does it mean to have a history that is hidden in today's like educational system?
Though some people might not agree with it.
Question, oh, she might spark, you know, too much conversation, or she's too political, or this is too much for this type of audience to bear. So sometimes my art is not admitted into absolutely everything.
Since the age of 12, she remained true to herself, and she hopes to be a role model for other little girls who look like her and see the world through a different lens.
One could never be too proud of who they are and who they come to be. My goal is to empower people to be themselves unapologetically.
Daniela Cado, reporting in partnership with CBS 58. Thank you for watching The Arts Page. I'm Sandy Max. Please join us the first Thursday of every month for a half hour full of art on The Arts Page.